Hello, this is Ken Ugert with the West Virginia Department of Education. In this video, we're going to discuss the benefit of the list views that are in Continuum Explorer. This is for the Andover Continuum software. The list views are great diagnostic tools for this program. I'll show you what they do and why they're beneficial, and I'll show you how to create one. To access the list views, you go to the Continuum Explorer mode. You will go again. They have some default ones from Continuum, and if you do the list view there's bunches and bunches and bunches of them. You can use those if you like. Some of them are geared toward your site, some of them are just generic. But I'll show you how to custom create these. If there are any custom created ones, they're going to be under your specific site. In this site, here's your network folder for this school. They chose to name this, keep the Infinity One name for this school, so it's not important so much. But under that school, again, under there, you'll see, under everything else, you'll see the list views. If you click list views, left click, you'll probably have some current ones that somebody else has created, possibly. And to show you what these do, set points. If you click the set points, it's going to bring up stuff. Unless you created these, you don't know what they're supposed to bring up. This one evidently was supposed to bring up everything with the word SCTPT in it. So here's all your set points. Mixed air set points, night cooling set points, discharge air set points. So all these are under this list view. You can create them to show you your room temperature set points. And the good thing about these things are that, say you want to change a group of these. Say I want to change all the night heating set points to something. You can highlight by putting your mouse on a line, hold down the shift key and drag the ones you want. You can do a block of them like that, or you can hold the control down and select the ones that you want, so they don't have to be a block. Alright? But in this case, I want this group, night heating set point. Just showing you what you can do. If you want to change a group of these, you can do them individually if you so desire. You can go to Edit, and it's going to bring them up one at a time. You can see that they're, so then if you want to change those, you can change the set point to on each one of them, go one by one. And you can see that it's bringing up one at a time. Every time you push OK, it changes and goes to the next one. And you can do it that way, which is okay too. But if you want to do them as a group, highlight them, and you do a right click, and you'll go to Set Attributes. What you're going to set, the attribute that you're going to set, you can bring up this drop down box, and there's a whole bunch of stuff there. But what you're going to do is, for this, if we're just changing the set points, we're going to change the value. And then the value of what we want to change to is, let's change them all to 64 degrees. So if we say OK, it's going to set those to 64 degrees. And they will all change here in just a second. Should change. There they go. So now, without much effort, you've changed these. These may be controlled by something else, a control program. If it's controlled by a program, it's going to revert back to what it was. But anyway, that is a benefit of it. You can do the same thing with outputs. You can highlight a group of fans or outside air dampers or cooling or heating. You can highlight a group of them. You can set the attributes. You want to set that. Well, if you're testing them, first thing you'd have to do for fans, you would have to disable them. That's another good feature is you can disable a group of things. You'll see that these become disabled, and they'll probably also turn yellow because it shows you, it's one of the features that it tells you. Then once they're disabled, just like you would on the sheet, you would change the value. You want to change the value, and you would change them to on or off, whichever one you would choose. Since these are set points, that's not what we would do here. Let's change these back to 62 where they were. Okay. The other thing you can do, if you have a whole bunch of stuff disabled or enabled, you can also quickly highlight that same group and enable them. That will allow you to, without having to go to each individual one, to enable them quickly. Okay, so that's one of the things that you can quickly see with these, and it also lets you see at a glance what's enabled, what the values are, and what's going on without having to go to each individual point. All right. To create one of these, it's not a big deal. A lot of times I'll just use an existing one, especially if there's one that I have something similar to. You'll say, if you want to copy this one, you would take it up there and copy it to the name of the controller, and you would say OK. Then what you would do is just rename it to whatever you're going to make it do. You would edit it, and this is where you would start the customizing of it. But let's start from scratch so we know where this is going. To create a new one, anywhere in this white area, just do a right click on the mouse and create a new list view. Okay, we'll call this one test. We'll call this one dampers. What we're going to do is make one that allows us to look at and control the dampers. So we'll create one that's dampers, and it comes up with these 4 tabs. You can put it's usually good to put a description here to allow somebody to look at it and see what you're trying to do. You don't have to. But if you put something there, somebody else looks at it, and they at least know what you're trying to do. The class is, there's generally just very few selections from this that we will use. There's a whole bunch of them to choose from, but all of them that we will choose, and don't get confused with this, you're either going to use an infinity output, an infinity numeric, or infinity input. This can only bring up in a list view like items, like points of the same type. So you can look at only inputs, you can look at only numerics, or you can look at only outputs. You cannot combine those, or you cannot combine any of these types. Since we are going to control dampers on this one, it's an output, so we want to choose infinity output. Okay. The path type, here's my alarm thing kicking up. The path type is, if you have a bunch of schools and you only want to look at a single school for this, or you want to look at all the schools for this, this is where you choose your path. You would choose, if you wanted to choose device and below, what you would be selecting is the device and all these infinite controllers below here. If you do device only, you're only looking at what's under this controller, or what's under this controller if this was your choice. The path, and this is where you have to choose. If I choose this school and I have device only, it's only going to look at this. Only going to look at what's under here, not these. If I choose device and below, it's going to say I want these, this, and everything below here. If I had another school, it would not look in that school unless I chose the network field. So it's whatever is listed here and the path type. So in this case, I don't have much of a choice because I only have one school. So I'm going to look at this school and everything below it. So I'm going to choose device and below. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do, you don't have to do a report template or anything like that. Do the columns. This is going to be the information that you're going to see. If you're starting from scratch, you need to add some columns. You can add about 5 columns. So click that 5 times. So now we have 5 columns. The first column typically is the device ID. It's just to be consistent. You can put them in any order you want to. You can create anything from the list if you want to. But the device ID is the most chosen thing first. It's going to put these as in order from ACU1, ACU2, ACU3. It gives you the path to where that is. The next thing we want is the name. If you know the letters, if you get to the point, all you have to do is push the first letter of the choice you want. In this case, let's go back here. You can toggle down to where name is. Then we're going to put the value, which is at the bottom. Next, we're going to put we'll put units. You can put anything. You can stop right there if you want. The more things that you bring up, the more information you'll have. And put the wrong thing. I want want the units there. And lastly, let's do the state, whether it's disabled or not disabled. Okay, so there are your column headers. Most of the stuff is you don't have to change. The thing I change most is you usually have to change this to about 250 or 300, just because it has a pretty long name. Everything else in this is okay. You will want to change the source of the value, because the source is, does it come from the computer that's stored, or do you want live value? You only have two choices. Typically the value, if you check that, you'll have to go to live, because you want the current, what it truly is. And the state will typically be a live value. You can have them all live values if you want to. I wouldn't suggest the database for the values, because that's whatever it was saved at that time at some point. So if that's what you check, see, there's nothing else. You could sort if you want to. You can bring up the information from in a numerical or alphabetical order. If you push this as primary, that will bring up all the device IDs. It'll bring up everything in this order, ACU, ACU2 down to pump house. If you want to do that, you can stop. You can make it sort differently if you want to. Maybe you want to sort it the highest values based upon the values. You can sort, it'll be sorted by 100% down to 0%, and in that order. So they're pretty flexible as how you can do these. If you don't want any sorting, you can do none. We'll show that how that works first. So if that's all you do, what you're going to bring up is all infinity outputs. Let's push apply. Let's show you how that works. Dampers. That's the one we just created. If we double click on that, it's going to bring up a lot of information. So it's going to bring them up in a random order, but these are all the outputs on the system that you just created. It's under the folder Hacker Valley Infinity, and then these are the field controllers. So it's a random listing. Okay. If we were to bring these up, let's bring them up in order of columns. Let's change this. Let's change the name as a sorting to the primary. Show you how that works. This should bring up all the outputs in a alphabetical order, starting with C and E's and F. So that's a more logical way to do that. Maybe you want to turn all the exhaust fans on or off. Maybe you want to do something with one of these outputs. So that way you can find them together easier. So that's one of the benefits. Okay, and then you can the dampers. Well, we'll get to the dampers. But if you want to create one just for, if you got a great big site, you really can't bring up all your outputs. So if you want to get specific with them. You created where you want to look at. You created the columns that you want to look. You can add or delete those if you so desire still yet. The qualifications, qualifiers. This is where you say, this is specifically the points that I want to see. And usually you will say, I'll go to this query wizard. And if I just want certain things, I will say, I want the things with the name is, and since I'm looking at dampers here, I know they're called, or if you don't know what they're called, come over here to the output. Say I want that. Maybe I just want those. OA damper. Okay? So go back to the Listview, and I want to put OA DPR. It's not capital sensitive or anything. So then you say OK, and you apply it. Okay? Now when we go back and select this dampers, it's only going to bring me up the ones with that name. But if you got a whole county full of these, and they're all named the same, that would be a quick way to look at all your dampers. At this point, you can, like we did before, highlight the whole group, or just several of them, however you want. Disable them, because we don't want the programs taking control of them. Then we'll highlight them again, and we'll set them to a specific value. I'll set the, let's see, you'll go in this blue and you'll do a right click, set attributes, left click. I want to change the value of these to something. Let's set them to 5%. Since these are all live values, they will quickly go to 5%. Okay, so they've all gone to 5%. That's one easy way to shut all your dampers in the wintertime. If you had a whole list of these, hundreds of them, but if you had a big county, you can do them all in one swipe, just like that. All right. The other thing that's nice about this is, if we go back to edit that, so now we've got our columns that we want, we got the qualifiers that we want. Say I want to know quickly which ones are disabled or which ones are enabled. This is a good thing, especially when you're looking at all outputs or all inputs or all things. If you're trying to see what is disabled, what you do here, you'd select the wizard again. You would select, I want the state, because you want to know, is it enabled or disabled? State is, then type in the word disabled. Okay, so now it's going to highlight everything that is disabled. It's still going to bring up the whole list, but it's going to highlight what is disabled. To determine the color that you want to see, let's see, we'll have a background of yellow. We'll say OK. Apply. So now what it's going to do, it's going to bring up the list, and everything that's disabled is going to be yellow. If I were to enable one of these, it would turn back to a white and black background, because these are also live values. The state is also live values. So you can see how that would be beneficial if you're looking at large groups of information. Let's see, let's look at all inputs. I've created some for this one. And you can, like at a glance, just bring them all up. You can see down here at the bottom, as long as it's building list, it means it's not through looking. Once the building list goes away, that's when it's done. But you can see that these are in alphabetical order. There are none so far that are disabled. There's one that's disabled. See how it stands out? There's some that are disabled. It has stopped counting. It is at 118 objects, and it's through. So there you go. So that is a cool way to do things. That's a lot of trial and error to look at these, but you can, I mean, you can highlight as many things as you want to. You really can't set the values the same on all these. But like points, you can set the values. So you can do a lot of things with these. You can, you know, if you had to rename a bunch of stuff, you can rename them and just bring them up one at a time. Enable them, disable them, or edit them. It's all good stuff. So hope this lets you. This is a kind of a trial and error thing, and so try it in some of yours. If all else fails, go look at something else. Look at one that's existing, see how it's set up, and try it, because it's a, for me, it's a very useful diagnostic tool, especially in larger sites. All right, thanks. This is Ken Ugert. If you got any questions, let me know. Thanks.